budget session of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners on November 17th. And this is our first session on the 17th, 2025. And the first item on the agenda is a general budget overview given by our financial team. And so whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Great. Thanks, Commissioners, for having us. Justin Alvey, Director of Finance.
And Karen First, Fiscal Manager.
And we're going to be presenting on the draft of the 2026 recommended budget from County Administration. So areas of topic for this afternoon. One is just going over the overall goals and objectives for the general fund financially. Both factors in terms of revenue and expenditures that impact the budget. A review of the revenue estimates and historical trends for those major revenue sources. And then just a breakdown of different sets of appropriations for next year in the general fund.
Okay.
First, the primary objective for the general fund budgetarily is to have a balanced budget approach, meaning revenues and expenditures will equal. Just as some feedback, when we did a first draft of the budget back in September, the requested appropriations were about $16.8 million higher than the revenue estimate. So in working with all the agencies and elected officials, we were able to get that to equalize for 2026. Some other policies that impact the general fund is maintaining a cash reserve that's equal to 25% of revenues for the prior year. And then also there's a set aside for about $5 million for a budget stabilization reserve. And then lastly, in the budget for all funds, we run a 5-year forecast through 2030, and then semi-annually, usually around July, we also update the 5-year forecast for the general fund as well.
Okay.
So going into factors that influence the budget, primarily on revenues, obviously most of the revenue for the general fund is derived from sales tax, so disposable income is very important to our revenue streams. Also, a large portion of revenues come from real estate taxes, so residential, industrial, and retail growth play into that, coupled with real estate valuations. And then lastly, over the last few years, as interest rates have been relatively high, a large revenue source for the county has been interest income as well. And then on the expenditure side, obviously inflation has a big impact on both operating and capital costs. But health insurance has been a big sticking point this year with an increase of about 13.2%. So when I did a look back annually from 2020 through 2026, the average annual increase is about 6.2%. So this year has been the highest over the last 6 years. And then lastly, with growth comes new capital spending, both in terms of maintaining or expanding the roads or putting in new infrastructure. So here I have a breakdown of just the main revenue categories for the general fund. I mentioned previously sales tax. Right now we have an estimate of about $99.9 million for next year, and that's a little over 61% of the revenue budget. And then the next highest categories are charges for services, interest, and then property taxes. One thing to remember with the property tax estimate, that also includes a continuation of the reduction in inside millage, and that's a savings of about $6.9 million to property owners next year. And then if you just add up all the millage reductions that have been done over the last few years, that's about $24.9 million in total savings.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I have a breakdown. You'll have to forgive me, it's a little hard to see in the chart, but just a summary of the collections and sales tax over the last few years. Right now, for 2025, we're projecting collections of about $98.4 million, and we're projecting a marginal increase to about $99.9 million for 2026. And when you factor in just back in 2023, total collections were about $90.6 million, so we've seen some really great strength in that revenue source. Next slide is on historical real estate collections. And back in 2022, the board approved a millage reduction for property tax savings for homeowners. But you'll see that large increase going into 2024 and that was due to the reappraisal that occurred that year. So back in 2023, collections were about $11.5 million, and that factored in the reduction that was adopted in August of 2022. And we've been hovering about $15.5 million the last few years. The one thing I'll tell you is the estimate for next year really doesn't take into consideration anything that's going on at the General Assembly in terms of, limiting the inflationary rate of collections for inside millage, so. Going into expenditures, just have a breakdown of the major categories as well. The two primary, of course, are wages and fringe benefits. And when you add those together for the general fund, that's about 52.8% of total spending for next year, or about $86 million. So that's where most of our costs come from. And then if you look at the next page, a summary of expenditures by function. Interesting, and this is very similar for municipalities as well. Most of general fund costs primarily are attributed to public safety and infrastructure. And when you add in the engineer, EMS, and the sheriff's office, those combined make up about 59% of all general fund appropriations for 2026. Next, I have just a breakdown of transfers, and if you look at the chart, it's pretty erratic. The last couple of years, we've been making large transfers for mostly upcoming facility improvement projects. We did a large portion of transfers last year, and then the bulk of those this year as well. And for 2026, those monies are going to be allocated primarily for the construction of the social services building, the renovation of the jail, and then the renovation of the Willis building. So that's why you'll see going into 2026, the value of the transfers goes way down. And those are mostly just for operating transfers to other funds and debt service transfers. Next, have just a summary, a snapshot of new positions that were requested, and this is just for the general fund. So we have a lower subset for next year, one being in the legal division for clerk of courts. That was requested for just because of the volume of caseloads that the clerk's office is receiving. And then EMS departments requested 6 new EMTs for a portion of next year. And the thought is those positions would staff the new joint fire and EMS facility with BST&G that's being constructed, and it'll be located off of Wilson Road. Next, just have a breakdown. We have a permanent improvement fund that's supported by a portion of the real estate tax for the county. I always like to break it down based on facility. So the largest portion right now is going into next year's for the jail. Part of that is for new roof replacement and more HVAC systems. And then another portion is for, if I recall, it's for HVAC improvements at the Carnegie building. And that's just a high summary overview on the general fund. Again, it was really great to work with all the departments to get the budget balance for 2026. We always start this process the week after 4th of July, and it takes a lot of effort to get to this point. So really appreciate everyone's help and county administration's
Boy, thank you so much. Excellent presentation. Questions?
I think I know the answer, but just to make sure, the 2025 actual sales tax, that's the first 10 months?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Questions?
You didn't cover the debt, the county's debt. I don't know if that's, you want to do that here?
I can, Commissioner. It's actually for 2026, it's actually going down for the general fund.
Right.
We're paying off one note that was a refinancing from 2019, and the last debt service payment is being made this month. We don't have any new borrowing envisioned for the next couple of years, potentially for some TIF-related projects. But those, hopefully, the way we would execute those is they wouldn't count against our debt capacity. And even with regional sewer, when I look at the 5-year forecast there, they're in such great financial position that regional sewer doesn't need even borrow money as well. So for all the projects that we've outlined or that John Melvin's going to discuss later, we're able to finance all of those with cash. So there's no new debt envisioned in the budget, at least through 2030.
Okay. You couldn't get the Budget Commission to make it, instead of 99.99 million, you couldn't have them make it 100 million?
No, that's a great question. So originally, the first.
You're 99.99 million.
Sure. So that number originally was situated at 93 million. And then Tracy Davies and I talked to Auditor Keitsa to see if it could be increased, just because, we're seeing it's going to be about 98 million through the end of this year. And then we budgeted a marginal, I think, 1% increase for next year, and it just happened to be 99.9 million. So,
It would look cool to have 100 million
Sure,
in sales
sure.
tax revenue.
I think we'll be there next year.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you both.
Yep.
And
We
everybody
feel
else,
good.
all the
We
departments.
feel good about the sales tax projections.
We do. There was a small blip in collections in October. We haven't got the numbers yet for November, but the numbers have been holding up and really impressive, so no concerns there
And we should get a bump in December from the money from,
from August, from the
yeah,
sales tax
August is
holiday.
of the tax holiday.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No, thank you.
Not really.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, we have a presentation on the Facilities Department budget.
It's very good PowerPoint, I just did a little quick.
All right,
Sure.
thank you.
Hi, John Melvin, Director of Facilities. I guess we're ready to start. Move right in, we'll keep this process
All right.
moving. Steve Bollinger, I'm the Maintenance Supervisor, and Chad Alshire, the Facilities Operations Supervisor, are here as well to help any backup I may need. But just to really keep it really simple, as Justin mentioned, kind of roll in right there. We have a list of capital projects out of the permanent improvement capital funds that we kind of identify each year. Maintenance projects. As you mentioned, we're looking at some HVAC issues at the jail, as well as the flat roof kind of seal coating, some just general maintenance, as well as some maintenance project throughout the different buildings. We have some carpet that needs to be replaced in the courthouse, and to really we addressed the Hayes building already. And every year we do a certain amount of parking lot maintenance, blacktop seals, concrete sidewalk replacements. There's main areas that we kind of identified in the capital projects, the permanent improvement fund. I don't know if you have any questions on those projects or anything you might have identified, have a question on.
Any questions on those?
No, not really. They did a good job of maintaining our building. Very important to keep them in good shape.
Yeah, and just kind of jump back, our general fund budgets for the lands and buildings and the county garage and service center. The county garage is pretty much a flat budget this year. Gas prices is the main driver of that budget, and it remained stable over the last probably year and a half. So maintain a pretty flat budget on that. And the lands and buildings, our biggest impacts we saw this year was utility costs have gone up, as well as we've seen a lot of increases in maintenance contracts. We have over 25 different vendors. We have a lot of various different maintenance contracts, from elevators, backflow preventers, fire alarm systems, the building HVAC controls, as well as just lawn care and snow removals. So we did have a slight increase in that, our request in the lands and buildings, but it's minimal. No new employees, just everything based off, raises and the impact on benefits. And kind of, as Justin touched upon, we have, right now, I have 5 capital projects kind of in the works at various stages. We have the social services, I didn't update that title, the Shared Services Administration Building. Currently, they are, Gil Bain, our construction manager at risk, is working with MSA and Pizzuti to get the first GMP, which will include the site work and the manufacture for the pre-engineered metal building. Our goal is December 1st to have that before the board for legislation, as well as we already have our next work session scheduled for December 8th. So where Pizzuti and MSA will be giving a full update on the current state of where that project lies. So it's still on budget. I think the bids for Gilbane they come in this week, so we're hoping for some good bids there on the site work and the metal building. So, and they'll have an update to the detailed design estimate too as well at our work session.
Negotiations with the city are going well?
I cannot address that. I'm not involved in that
Okay.
that topic. So I know we have not gotten any comments back from the early engineering submittal for the site package. So
We were hoping for comments last week, but we have not received any yet.
still working with them the best we can, trying to keep things moving along expeditiously. So to still maintain that substantial completion date of August of '27 for the building. Last week, we awarded the bid for the Willis Building renovation projects. The contractor is ready to start. We have a construction kickoff meeting scheduled for Wednesday. They're eager to get going. Again, addressing the phases of that project, working around the different elections. So the big chunk will be the first phase would be the former Big Lot side, which will be the new warehouse and some conference space and voter training in that area. So that get that completed before the May of '26 primary. So that's our first milestone on that project. The other three projects, we have contracted, DLZ did a schematic design and estimate looking at the 911 and the Carnegie building. We've got the report back. I think we're reviewing that to look at the value and how much we can actually add to that building. So we're probably be addressing that here in the next month or two, looking at what we want to take on with that project. And there's certain aspects that the building we can have in our capital maintenance budget, because there's some systems, HVAC systems, that we need to address. They're getting towards the end of life. So it'll either be encompassed in our capital project as a building renovation or as a permanent improvement. So, as well as mentioned, the jail renovations. We've completed schematic design of the whole overall project, working with the sheriff's office to identify and adjust a phase one proposed project to take on next year. But the next step will be coming forward with a contract amendment to do the detailed design for the project and adjust the phase one to come back with the phase one proposal before moving on to construction documents and moving forward with that project. So still looking at multiple phases, trying to get, doing the detailed design for the whole project will help us in submitting for, hopefully for future grants, for potential to get some funding for that project. And the fifth project, we currently have out requests for qualifications for a design team for the a new EMS Station 3 and Sheriff's South Substation to get both of those buildings out of where they're currently located into one building. They're looking
That's
at,
just design next year for those?
yes.
Okay.
We could maybe start construction, if everything moves along, end of next year, but,
But we
first
have
step is
to
design.
maintain some physical presence in the DD building for insurance purposes.
Yeah.
So,
That's the current projects that are going on. I'd happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I don't think I have any.
No, not really. You do a nice job of, updating us on a regular basis. This is more formal once a year, but.
Yep.
you do a
And I
nice
think
job.
because of the past years, you've done a good job of kind of putting the form that you knew we'd asked for.
Yep.
So, these are what you consider A priorities.
Yes, those are kind of in order, but as always, it's subject to change. Something could happen next week.
Yeah,
Sure,
So,
yeah,
something always happens.
yep.
yeah.
I do have one other question. It's not on this material here, but lease vehicles. One of the goals going to lease vehicles was we were going to have fewer vehicles. Have we made any progress on that, or how would you rate the job we've done on that?
I think we've done a good job. It's hard to account for reducing the vehicles when the county's growing so much. You know, and I think Justin Nobby has really taken over spearheading the actual administration of the leased program. Been working with him on that. We've started to turn in, we passed the 5-year, and we're seeing pretty good equity in the vehicles we turn in that roll over into cheaper lease rates for the new vehicles. It's done a good job of making the fleet newer, so then we're not driving around with a lot of old police cruisers. You know, we don't have a lot of those on the road. So in terms of sell cars, we're getting a little bit, an old cruiser, Explorer, Crown Vic, Police Interceptor, the SUV Interceptor, we get about $4,000 or $5,000 out of those typically.
We're turning over all those still under warranty, which reduces our
Yeah,
maintenance
so,
costs.
yeah, most of the other fleet outside, public safety, and they do have, the sheriff's office and EMS do have some lease vehicles as well for when it's applicable. So it's definitely, we maintain a newer fleet, under warranty, latest safety features, and we are seeing good equity when we turn on, being an open-ended lease. We have a couple vehicles we extended, we just go to month, running another year, and we're still seeing good value in those.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
John.
Thanks, John.
And next up, we have the sheriff's office budget. Welcome, Sheriff.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
I'll load your PowerPoint on it.
Sure.
And voice clicker right here. Well, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Sheriff Jeff Balzer, and I'm happy to be here today to get an opportunity to present to you an update of where the Sheriff's Office spent our funds this year and where we'd like to address issues for next year. First, I want to introduce my team. With me today, I've got Chief Deputies Dave Wiseman, John Scowden, Tom Morgan, Chief Administrative Officer Chelsea Dean Shoemaker is home with the sick little ones today, Director of Fiscal Services Mikkel Roy, and Jail Director Nick Carafa, and Public Relations Director Tracy Whiting. Also, I want to thank Administrator Tracy Davies, Assistant Administrator Don Houston, and Fiscal Director Justin Navi. They were very helpful to us in preparing our budget.
Oh, don't forget Karen.
And Karen, too. Karen's always helpful. As you know, 2024 is a busy year for the Sheriff's Office with the start of our accreditations, and we're continuing that path. In 2024, we became accredited with the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, CALEA, American Correctional Association, PREA, Prison Rape Elimination Act, and also the Ohio Bureau of Adult Detention. We achieved 100% of state standards. In 2025, we have just been awarded last week the Ohio Collaborative Accreditation. That's law enforcement. Ohio's coming up with their own accreditation for law enforcement agencies. We are the probably seventh or
Thank you.
eighth agency in Ohio to get this accreditation now. And it's going to roll out. I expect in the future most every law enforcement agency will try to get this.
Gee.
In the middle, at the bottom, is the Ohio Attorney General's Star Academy Award for Outstanding Police Academies. We met all the requirements for that, and we should be getting that within the next week or two. And then the one on the lower right is the National Commission on Correctional Health Care. That accreditation, they are supposed to be on site the second week of December. That's a big deal for us because jail medical, if you think of liability, that's a high liability area. So we want our medical staff that's contracted, but we want to make sure that they and we work together the best we can to reduce that as much as we can. And people sometimes ask me why accreditation is important. And I say, first of all, we always want to meet and exceed the industry's best standards for law enforcement agencies, because I think our community deserves it. So that's what we're going to do. Partnerships count in Delaware County. That's been the way it has been for the last 10 years or so, and we're going to keep that going. When I talk about partnerships, I talk about the Delaware Tactical Unit, which is featured at the top there, our crisis negotiation team, our drug task force, also our school resource officers. The photo in the lower left is when one of our school resource officers won the Deputy of the Year award. And the entire school at BV West Elementary was there that day to see her get the award. It was pretty enjoyable. As you well know, we have 19 deputies who are dedicated to school safety. 19. That's probably the most of any law enforcement agency or close to it in the state of Ohio. Of those 19 deputies, 17 are in the schools, school resource officers, and 2 are sergeants assigned to that task. Part of that has to do with the fact that we've got the 4th largest public school district in the state of Ohio too, with Old Tangi schools. But it's a partnership of trust. A partnership of trust. As parents trust us in the schools, interacting with their students. The schools trust us in there. And the county commissioners trust us too, to allocate funds, so I appreciate that. The shared cost that we have with the schools makes it important. Another shared cost and partnership I want to talk about is with Board of Commissioners. We're coming up on a large expense for ballistic vests. Ballistic vests every 5 years have to be replaced. And because we made a change in uniforms however many years ago, 5 years ago, they're coming up now. So we were discussing that, and Justin and then Don Houston came up with a great idea of using workers' compensation cash funds to pay for that. It's a great use for the ballistic vest because it keeps people safe and avoids us using workers' compensation. Another one was ballistic helmets. We had Rescue Task Force training this year. Rescue Task Force is when law enforcement officers go into an active shooter situation with medics or firefighters when the situation is still ongoing. In the past, the firefighters and medics would wait outside until it was safe to go in. We don't do that anymore. Now, if it's warm, if there's not active shooting right there, we send in law enforcement officers with the medics to try to save people right then. I signed up for the first class because I wanted to see what it was like. So I was up there for the class, and I looked around me, and I noticed that every single one of the medics and firefighters had on a ballistic helmet, and none of the cops did. None. Our tactical team certainly does have ballistic helmets, but the folks that are out in the cruisers every day do not have one available, and that's something I want to change. So that's why in our budget this year, we put in a request for funding to be able to have one per cruiser. So that way when a deputy rolls on scene, they're going to have that ballistic helmet available. And that again is an area of possible funding through the Workers' Compensation Cash Fund, so thank you for that partnership. Finally, you may wonder why I have the photo of Sheriff John Hinton from Morrow County on our slide. And the reason I have that is because of the tragic incident that happened back in May 26th, when Deputy Daniel Weston Shearer lost his life up in Morrow County. Immediately, within minutes after that event happened, I got a call, a request for assistance. And the reason they called us, not just because we're next door, but because of our reputation. And they asked us to handle the investigation of the homicide against their deputy, and also to house the person in our jail. And I, without hesitation, I said yes. And the reason I did that is because I know if we have an incident, that we're gonna have people come to our need too. When I talk about partnerships, it extends beyond Delaware County. So if a nearby agency needs something, we step up because I know in a time of need, they're gonna help me as well. Protecting our community. Our drug task force has been doing an awesome job this year. Our drug task force is composed of officers, deputies, agents from federal, state, and Delaware County law enforcement agencies. From January 1st through October 31st, more than 30 search warrants have been executed, resulted in the seizure of 64 firearms and nearly $650,000 in U.S. currency seized. We have to share that with our partners on the agency. The drugs seized include nearly 16 kilos of cocaine, 398 grams of crack cocaine, over a kilo of fentanyl, in excess of 8 kilos of methamphetamine, 571 dosage units of pharmaceutical or pills, more than 100 kilos of illicit marijuana, and 7,200 THC cannabis vape pens. And that investigation started from an SRO. An SRO was wondering why there were so many vape pens, kids using THC in schools. He passed it on to the Drug Task Force. They found out that many of these items were coming from Michigan. People go up to Michigan and buy large quantities of it, come back down and sell them at the schools. If you notice in here, in the cache in the upper left-hand corner, if you can see that well in that photo, you're going to see 1s and 5s. That's always significant to me because it means that those people use their last hour. So it has a deadly impact on our community. In the jail, we continue to try to protect people in our jail too. And that includes, on July 14th of this year, we had a naloxone vending machine. In partnership with our Ohio and local health district, we have a Narcan vending machine in the Delaware County Jail with free Narcan. It's open 24 hours a day for anyone to stop out and pick that up. It's been a great partnership. We've already had to refill it once, and I love to see that. We also have medicated assisted treatment. I pulled the headline from the Columbus Dispatch. We applied for and received a grant of nearly $250,000 from the Attorney General's office so we could have injectable medicated assisted treatment. Studies have shown that people are more likely to be able to be in long-term recovery if they use medication and behavioral therapy. So we partner with our local agencies to do that. They start using the injectables, long-term injectables, while they're in the jail, and we connect them with resources when they leave the jail. This not only helps the individual, but it also helps our community by reducing crime. Just as important as protecting the community are protecting the protectors. In 2024, we started a program. We started a wellness program with a company called Robertson Brain Health. Robertson Brain Health is an international corporation out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And they provide wellness training to corporate executives, what they used to do. And they did pretty well throughout the world. And then they started a nonprofit called Protect the Protectors for First Responders. And we have contracted with them. In 2024, we began the program, and initially it was the leadership team, and then the jail, the dispatchers, and we saw it was having a very positive effect on the office. We expanded it to every member of the sheriff's office. This program will help to improve, manage, and optimize the brain health and overall well-being of first responders. They basically assess where you are now, what are your risks, and how you can make positive changes to improve your life, both at home and work. And we've received very positive participation and feedback from employees. Why is this important? If you think about it, critical incidents, I've seen studies that indicate general public may experience, a person in the general public may experience 1 or 2 critical incidents in their lifetime. Public safety, that includes deputies, corrections, and dispatchers, can have critical incidents up to several times each year. Trauma is cumulative. And just an example, this past Friday, we had an inmate overdose in Delaware County Jail. We obviously are investigating that to try to find out how those drugs happen to get in the jail. But the point I'm talking about right now is what happened when the inmate overdosed. The corrections officers immediately took action, life-saving action. CPR, administered the automatic external defibrillator. Narcan, they saved the inmate. Medics came and transported the person to a hospital. They're in stable condition now. But that still has an effect on you. Even in this case, it's a positive outcome because the person lived. It still has an outcome on those first responders. So other ways we protect our folks is under Chief Deputy Dave Wiseman's leadership. We have critical incident stress management and peer support teams to care for our protectors in Delaware County. The training center has been very busy this year, just like last year. In 2025, we've had 2 basic peace officer training classes. One that graduated in April, that was class number 2, and one that is going on right now. It started in the first week of October. That's class number 3. We also have had 3 Corrections Academy classes. We've had field training for new deputies. Crisis intervention team training. Those are where we partner with our mental health board, and we bring in people to help us deal with stressful situations, to interact with people when they're having mental health crises. Our in-service training. We have between 20 and 30 sessions every year to be able to get our folks through. It's a week-long course to make sure they're all up to date on the newest training. We also had our rescue task force and child abduction response team. Some of the photos that we're seeing up there, the deputies from that's class number 2, smiling when they graduated, some of the defensive tactics up top. Down below in the lower left is the child abduction response team. That's a large group. We had a scenario, we did a drill out at the training center, and it was great. This helps us keep our certification in the event of either child abduction or missing child, so we can roll that team out. And again, that is partners across not just Delaware County, Franklin County, Marion County as well, and state partners and federal partners. We have numerous training sessions to benefit Delaware County law enforcement agencies. I also want to talk about the training budget, because the training budget includes many more things than just academy classes. Included in the training budget are wages and benefits for the deputies assigned to training, the lieutenant, and the academy instructors. We also purchase ammunition for the deputies to practice with and to use on duty. Simunitions. Simunitions is, it's not like a paintball, but it's semi-realistic. We use type of ammunition is non-lethal in our training, so we can go up there and train. And related equipment, academy books and uniforms, cleaning services for the training center, and of course the utilities. The course cost for training and travel for deputies to become and stay instructors. Leasing cost for the firearms simulator, which is a great tool. And vehicle rentals for driving portion of the academy, and for driving track fees at the Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy. Increases for the 2026 training budget would include requests for additional funds for training. We've got a new training deputy now because Matt Fletcher retired last year, so we've got a new deputy, Steve Ridenauer, new training deputy, who would need to go through all the courses. And driving track fees at Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy. I mentioned that we have to take the basic peace officer candidates out there to have them on the track out in London to get them practice driving. The sad point is, most police officers, that's the last time they have any driver's training. It's crazy. It really is. You think about liability and risk, certainly people think of the jail, think of people like use of force firearms, and certainly there are risks with those. But driving, every day, deputies are out there driving. And so what we've included in the budget request is to be able to, over the course of the next couple of years, get all of our deputies out there to APATA to have updated training. I think this will help reduce the liability and the risk to the deputies and to the public too. I'll back up one thing on the training academy. One of the reasons it's important that we have our academy, our training center, the available options for training elsewhere are limited. Several years ago, OPATA, Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy, they stopped operating most of their in-person classes out in London. Columbus Police. In the past, we've sent people down to Columbus Police to get trained at their academy. They're a good academy. We partner with Columbus Police. Ohio State Highway Patrol, same thing, good academy, we've sent people there. The reality is now, in the August session, the Columbus Police Academy took only a few, I mean a handful, of students from outside agencies. All the agencies that used to depend on Columbus Police to train them, now we're having some of them come up to us. Grove City, Hilliard, Dublin are coming up to us now. State Patrol has training, but they only let 2 per agency. We can never keep up if we only sent 2 at a time to training. That's why it's important that we have our own academy. Corrections academies, we have to put ours on, or else we'd be sending them to Ashland or Stark County or different areas of the state. So we have to have the space to be able to put these classes on to keep our people trained. Some of the future projects we're looking for to help serve our community, as Director Melvin talked about, the jail renovations, phase 1. If you kind of look at that, the green is phase 1, the pink is phase 2, and the light blue is phase 3. In phase 1, some of the things that are included, we're looking to move our medical. Our medical right now is 2 cells in a very small area. That was great back in 1987 when you had a 60-bed capacity. We've outgrown that a long time ago. We saw during COVID, too, the need for that. So now, an increased medical and mental health area of the jail will be located, if you see in the upper right, green area, that's the I-dorm is what we call it. That's going to be used for that new medical and mental health area. It'll have a suicide watch, holding, and transition. Also, just below that will be a segregation unit. We also have recreation areas attached to those. What I mean by recreation areas, the new trend is that it looks like you're inside, but it qualifies as an outdoor recreation because at the very top there's vents and open areas so fresh air can come in. That's what Franklin County has if you've ever had the opportunity to tour their new facility. You don't have to move the inmates from one side of the jail to the other, traipsing all through it. You've got a smaller area right outside their housing area where we can take them to. That's a thing that kind of came up during our accreditation that we were kind of behind the curve on from the American Correctional Association. New flooring in the dorms. All the dorms, we've had them in use for however many years, they require new flooring. Also, a new system to operate the security features in the jail. For the future sessions, future phases of the jail, they will address the kitchen, again designed for 1987. The flooring has been failing every year. Our maintenance staff does an awesome job to help us make the health inspection every year, but that has been in a state of failure for quite a while. The laundry, a lot of the infrastructure that Steve and then Randy before him worked valiantly to keep going for us, but it's time to update some of these systems. And then staffing areas too, or some areas. I also have on the firearms range. The firearms range, our existing range, is starting to have difficulties. As you know, because I always send photos every year when it floods, a couple times a year we have flooding. When that happens, it not only puts the range out of commission for a week, so it backs up everything, because we use that range almost every day, but then we have to reassemble the range. Another area is a problem we're having, I'll call it kickback, but from the backstop. Shrapnel's coming back from it. We've just had minor injuries so far, but there have been deputies this summer and this spring when we're shooting that when we're out there on the range, some of the stuff will hit the backstop and come back out because it's getting full. We've been shooting that with lead and everything else for how many years. So far, it's just minor injuries. We hope to, in the future, be able to have an opportunity for an expanded range with pistol and rifle. We lost the rifle portion, part of it, when the transfer station came about. And also some classroom spaces and a possible shoot house where we could shoot indoor scenarios. And I put on here a caveat. I realize that even in Delaware County, you can't get everything you want, although the other sheriffs in the state tease me. But I told them, I said, look, my commissioners have to justify to the taxpayers, and so do I. So I get that. And if I'm asked of my priority, jail renovations or the firearms range, this year it's the jail renovations. That's my priority. It doesn't mean that I won't come back again next year and talk about the range, because I think that's something we need as we move forward. Also, again, I'd like to thank the commissioners about the opportunity to co-locate and partner with EMS in a south substation. Our current location, we just had a good opportunity to better our situation. When I talked to Administrator Davies, I told her, I said, we're having real difficulties down at the south side. Whether it's the heating, the cooling, just lots of difficulties down there. I said, I think there's areas of the building that might be better. Can she check? Can you check? She checked with John Melvin. John said, yeah, there's parts of the different part of the building that I think we can put you guys in, and you'll have less issues while we look for a longer-term solution. So we did. Last week, Captain Scott Vance, who's a master at coordinating all kinds of things, he helped coordinate all the activities to get us moved over to a different part of the building. That's wonderful. That's going to last us until hopefully the new substation will be built with the medics in Lewis Center. So thank you for that. The ways we engage with our community. I think that's important to let the community know what we do. Upper left is one of my favorite things. Everybody hears me talk about Safety Town. Each year, we have over 500 children go through Safety Town. It's a week-long course. We have several of them at each of the school districts we serve. It's important for a number of reasons. I tell the parents I congratulate them when I talk to them. That's one of the things I like about it. They are establishing a positive relationship with law enforcement, with their children. So it's a great opportunity for me to address the parents, have a good interaction with the kids that week with our staff. A lot of work by our staff. I get to go in on Fridays and hand them the medals and talk to the parents. I have the fun part. They do a great job. Upper right, women's self-defense. We have several of these sessions a year. Each and every time they fill up like that, very quickly. So they're very popular. Our team does a great job. Director Tracy Whited and our training staff does a great job. Also, lower left is our Citizens Academy. This is an opportunity for people who live and work in Delaware County to come learn more about their sheriff's office. This is a very popular program where they get to take kind of a behind-the-scenes look at everything that we do to keep them safe. And finally, Delaware County Fair. Each year, that's an opportunity for us to connect with our community. I'm honored to be the sheriff of Delaware County, where my job is to partner with you and our community to keep Delaware County safe and a great place to live, work, and enjoy. I want to thank the Board of Commissioners for your continued support, and I'm available for any questions you have.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any questions from the commissioners?
I guess I'll go first. We have an individual budget as well, don't we, to look at it? Is it in this?
It's in your book.
It's in here? Okay.
Yeah, right here.
The federal prisoners, do we have very many of those now, or?
We don't. We only have less than 5 right now.
Because my concern's always been, do we get enough money to make it worth our while? And you've heard that from me before, so.
I think it's worth our while because we're going to have the space. We've got the available bed space in the jail. And one thing I didn't mention earlier is that the good news, we don't need a new jail, all right? Our housing is down significantly, but we do need those renovations. Because we've got those available bed spaces, I think it makes sense to contract with the federal government for the...
I just think the government should pay their way, and
I agree.
And I don't know that this is from my perspective, I may be all wet, whether we're aggressive enough in getting, especially with inflation. And so I just throw that out there. Please keep that in mind.
We are in negotiations right now, actually.
Okay.
This was the year we could do it, because basically when you enter into a contract with the federal government, it's 5 years. So we've been in the $83 range since 5 years ago, and now we're in negotiations. Currently, they've offered us $101, which is a good increase from 5 years ago. We're trying to see if we can hold it out a little bit to see if we get a little higher rate. But that's still ongoing. It basically stopped for the last month and a half when the federal government was shut down. But that is currently ongoing right now. Our hope is that by the first year or shortly thereafter, we'll have a new wage in place and a new daily rate.
So I just ask you to be as, I don't want to use the word aggressive. I'll just say be as reasonable as you can in getting that rate where it needs to be. Now, we only have 5 right now. Is there a
Less than
reason for
5.
that, or is it?
It's not a specific reason. I think our kind of sweet spot, and I'll look at Director Carifa, our sweet spot is probably 10. That works out pretty well. The reason is because of classification. Certain types of crimes we can only hold in certain areas of the jail, okay? Many years ago, the Delaware County Jail had 70.
I thought we had quite a few at
Remember
one
that?
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't have classification then, and that led to issues. There were some real problems back then. 10 to 20 we could probably do. Right now, their numbers must be down. I think the folks at the federal government is not on the criminal violations right now, so they're focusing on other areas.
And that's just a statement, that's a great way to, I'll call it the fudge factor, so we don't have to build a new jail, because if you have flexibility to take less federal prisoners,
That's
then
exactly right.
that's a great place to be. Question, I don't know the answer to this, we've talked about it before, maybe it's been resolved. Federal government, when they come into our jail, they cease being on Medicaid. Has that changed, or is that still the case?
That's still the case.
It makes absolutely 0 sense, and I think we all agree to that.
I agree. That would, well, you've seen over the years, medical costs throughout the county go up, obviously, but jail medical costs seem to rise even higher. And if we could have the Medicare, the Medicaid primarily, those funds available for our jail, that'd be very helpful. And that's been voiced by the National Sheriff's Association. Everyone has voiced that, but as of yet, that has not occurred.
We need to work closely with our legislators to try to advance that. I realize we've been trying for a number of years, but it makes no sense that just because you have to be outside the jail, they'll pay, inside the jail, they won't. It makes no logic to that. And the substation, I made a comment a while ago, we just have to keep that staffed until we decide what we're gonna do with that building, because we have to have somebody, we have to have bodies in that building for insurance purposes. I think you may be aware of that, but
Yeah, and that makes sense. You know,
it's for coursing
even if-
purposes.
Sure, even if it was an aggressive, you know, if the designs came back and started construction, it's obviously going to be into 27, I think, at the earliest. So we will certainly work, but I'd hate to have a brand new substation built for the medics, and I tell the deputies, sorry, you can't leave and go to the next station. But like I said, that's ways in the future.
And it may well be we'll have some direction on that building by
Sure.
then. I think it's probably our hope. That's all.
Yeah, I think we're waiting for ODOT, you know, to decide how they're going to change that intersection, before we decide whether, you know, how we want to develop the property that we have there and get control of the entire corner.
Makes
So,
sense.
yeah, so again, and supposedly that's coming next spring is when we'll hear from ODOT on their final
Okay.
design. Yeah, that's important topic. Thank you, first of all, thank you all, Sheriff, all the leadership team, you guys are just outstanding. Very, very happy to have you here and doing the great work you're doing. One of the topics we've talked about for a number of years, and the office has struggled with, is vacancies. You know, being able to hire and then train a number of deputies each year to cover departures as well as needs for more. You know, where do you stand on that right now?
It's still an issue. It's an issue with us. It's an issue with every law enforcement and public safety agency right now. We right now, I believe, are 6 down on deputies. Our last class, we have 6 class. I would have liked to have had 12. And I told our staff recently, we were talking about recruiting, I said, if we have, like, in theory, 6 vacancies, I'd want to hire like 8, because I guarantee we're going to have retirements before that time comes. So I want to try to keep up with them. It's a struggle. We start off when we posted this fall, and more than 100 people applied. Hey, great, that's exciting. That dropped so quickly. Those 100 people are also applying with 5 other agencies at least. And then we've got what happens is the first thing is physical fitness. You have to just a base level of physical fitness. We've got so many people that don't pass that, they're not prepared. Next is the interview. We lose some people with the interview too. So by the time we get done through this process, and it's a good process, we've reviewed it. We've got the background investigation, which is very important, different things. That 100 people has now turned into about 14. And maybe those 14 are also other agencies too. I think we compete pretty well. It's difficult with some of the agencies, the Grove City, Dublin, places like that. But I think we've got a really good reputation. We bill ourselves as the best sheriff's office in the state, and I think that our wages are competitive, okay? Our wages are competitive, so we're gonna get our good candidates. It's a difficult environment, but I'm never gonna pick someone just to fill up spots. Our team knows that I'd rather go short than have someone on that I don't think is the right character and integrity to be on our team. Same for the jail team. We've been doing better. It used to be our full staffing in the jail, we said was 64. We revised that, okay? With our population, the different things we've got going on in the jail and the way we reconfigure it, our now full staffing is 58. And I think that's more realistic too, for budgeting purposes and everything else. We now have 52? How many? 7 now. Okay, thank you. 51. Which means, yes, would I like to get 5 or 6 more corrections officers in there? Yes, I certainly would. That is still a struggle too, getting folks in there. But again, I'm hoping that they look and see the differences. We've had people say that when they come from state agencies or different agencies, they come through and they tell us what a difference it is working in our jail. Because our folks care, it's a well-run facility. I've got a A-plus team up there at the jail, really do. Chief Morgan's leading it and Director Care from the team. And so I think we've got opportunities to pick up a few people from other locations, but we've always struggled there.
And speaking of the jail, I know the construction costs are, we've spent some money and we've got more coming and planning on that. So appreciate whatever you can do there to phase it in, because like you said, we don't have unlimited resources, and yet, we do have, we're fortunate that we do have good resources, even though we're just short of $100 million in sales tax
I
revenue.
heard that, we were darn close, yeah.
Just not work on that for next year. And really my last comment is just the training center. Originally it started out as a much more modest endeavor, and it's grown to over $1 million. I know you're doing a whole bunch more there than we originally intended, so I just need to monitor that in the future, as it has become a lot more expensive than what we originally envisioned.
It has, and I think originally we talked about having the basic peace officer academy and some of the basic academies, but we've also utilized that building. It works out in so many ways to hold these sessions. The training sessions benefit, obviously, us as a sheriff's office in the community, but also the entire county, because we can now host sessions out there like the Rescue Task Force and different things, where that's going to benefit all the public safety in Delaware County.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on Commissioner Merrill's comment about being fairly reimbursed. I know we have a few deputies that go through our training center. Do you think we're getting fairly reimbursed for their share of the expenses of
Yeah,
operating?
for other agencies that go through, or,
Yeah.
yes and no, and I'll say that because we have to hold an academy. If we couldn't hold an academy here, we'd be woefully behind. With Columbus shutting off the opportunity to go to their academy, Highway Patrol only 2 at a time, I'd probably be 20 behind if we didn't have our own academy. That having been said, I think we've got a reasonable rate we're charging other agencies. Columbus PD, I think, is charging around, I can't remember the exact amount, it's maybe around $5,500 to $6,000. Westerville was charging around $4,000 when they were doing it. And we've used Westerville, it's a great academy too. We kind of picked it in the middle because we were kind of a new startup, we wanted people to see. We're charging $5,000. This time we've got 9 additional students that are in their academy, because we have to have 10 minimum to run an academy. So we had 6 deputy cadets, and we needed to get at least 4 others. So that's where we had Grove City, Dublin, Plain City, Delaware PD always sends a couple of people, Bell Fountain PD, Logan County Sheriff's Office. So we're attracting some people from different locations. And I think that it helps to I think the term that we use, it kind of defrays the cost. It defrays the cost of holding it. We're going to have to hold an academy either way. So we've got set costs for that. But the additional students help defray it. So my ideal academy, I'd like to have 10 or 11 or 12 deputy cadets in there, and then let's fill it up with 8 other people that it can help pay some of the costs too.
The training academy, I'll call it mission creep. It kind of got away from us as far as the cost. So I just ask us to work closer together in the future. I think we as commissioners deserve that, and of course your department deserves it as well. So communication will go a long ways, and it did exceed what our original thoughts or plans were.
In both ways, you're correct. It's exceeded in the cost. I readily admit that, but I think it's also exceeded in the mission and the successes we've had out there too. I think it's allowed to do a lot of things that we couldn't do before because we didn't have the space available.
One other question, we were talking about federal inmates. I assume that the federal government covers their health costs.
They did.
Okay,
They
so, and I assume that's also the case if we have somebody from
Yes.
Morrow County.
Yes, that's part of our contract. And our prosecutor's office, Vince Villio, is our assigned prosecutor, does a great job. That's written into the contract, that they cover those costs.
My point, and now I'm closing on this, don't underestimate the cost of, there's a lot of things that involved in a cost that go unnoticed or unaware. So we definitely need to cover our variable cost and hopefully some portion of the fixed cost of the facility. Otherwise, we're bearing it all, and all they're doing is covering the costs that are variable in nature. So just a statement.
I understand.
Just a couple of questions. Your biggest challenges now, and then also any particular trends that you're seeing in law enforcement and in crime, I guess.
Yeah, the
Here.
challenges are, we talked about kind of the cost creeping up and things, and our challenge is what benefits us also hinders us. So we're benefited by being close to the capital city, all right? Lots of big jobs down there, lots of people want to spend money, they want to live up in Delaware County. That's a wonderful benefit. That's why we've got such a great economy, everything's great. That also brings with it a lot of things from the capital city. A lot of crime from Columbus. Just, I think it was last week, is down in Powell. Last week, some people in a stolen vehicle came up into Powell. Powell police officers tried to stop them. They hit the Powell police cars. Our deputy was down there to help too. They took off because they had struck and tried to injure. Our pursuit policy allowed them to go after them. We got them stopped just south of the county line on Sawmill, and the people fled, of course, and one of the people in the car tried to carjack someone else. So that's the biggest concern I have, not that individual incident, but just because we're close to Columbus, it brings a lot of benefits, but it brings a lot of risks too. We partner with Columbus PD very well. Assistant Chief Greg Bodker, we talk all the time. But still, what happens in Columbus creeps up into Delaware County. And so our biggest challenge is trying to keep up with that. I want to make sure that I've got enough staff. No one can prevent everything. We all realize that. We can't prevent all crime or all drugs coming into our area. But we can be ready. We can present a visible presence so that people know they're in Delaware County. We can let them know that when they get arrested, not if, but when they get arrested in Delaware County, we've got a prosecutor who's going to charge them with the maximum charges. And then we've got judges who impose the appropriate sentence. So I think that's the greatest benefit too. Other law enforcement agencies tell us, I won't mention them by name, but other law enforcement agencies say, I wish I had your prosecutor, I wish I had your court system. Because where I am, people get in the jail, they get right back out. So.
And unfortunately, juveniles tend to go back to the county where they're housed, so you really can't, and that's frustrating for us, and I'm sure for you as well.
It is. Juveniles are very frustrating. A lot of times, that's what we're having coming up here too, is the juveniles. And that has risen. That's one of my biggest concerns. These juveniles, some of them, they don't have the life experience. They don't have the reality that they're mortal. And the behavior that they engage in, they steal a car down in Columbus. They have stolen guns. They come up to Delaware County, try to commit a crime. They steal another car up here. And this is my plea for anyone that's listening or watching this live. Please do not keep your firearms in your vehicle, okay? Because they will break in specifically to steal your gun, and then they'll use that in a crime. So if you carry a gun, that's great. And if you have to lock it in your vehicle, have a secure, locked container you can put it in. But that continues to vex us, the juveniles coming up out of Columbus.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you to the team that also keeps us safe. Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Anyone else have anything you want to say, or?
Okay,
Well,
all
thank you,
right.
Commissioners. I always appreciate
Thank you,
your
Sheriff.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Sheriff.
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Sheriff. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Okay. We will recess this meeting until Wednesday, November 19th, 2025, at 1:30 PM, when we will take up the